So today we're talking about time, treasures, and talents, and how to bring our whole self and extend our whole self to the holy conversation. And there's a story in the Bible, I think it's in two different versions of it, in Matthew and in Luke. And it says that there was this businessman and he had 3 servants. And I remember hearing this story when I was a kid, and I remember some aspects of the story I felt like, that sounds horrible. But the story goes that this businessman had these 3 servants, and he gave 5 talents to the first servant, and 2 talents to the second, and 1 to the third, and he went away on his business trip, and he came back, and when he came back, the first servant came to him, and he said, you know, while you're away, I doubled my talents. And the master said, well done, good and faithful servant. And then the next guy came and he had doubled his talents. He had 2 and he came back with 4, and he said, well done, good and faithful servant. And then the next guy came and he had 1. And he's like, I didn't double it, I buried it. And he was like, what? He's like, yeah, I wanted to keep it safe, so like I buried it. And it's a really sad part of the story is that the master says to him, to those who have more is given, and to those who don't, then that which they have will be taken away, and they'll be left alone with their own weeping and gnashing of their own teeth. And I was like, that sounds horrible. And as a little kid, I was like, gnashing of your own teeth and weeping, like, gosh, give the guy a break, man. He was trying to like not make a mistake. And that's sometimes how we live with our talents. We don't want to end up going back to the master and being like, I buried it. And yet sometimes we bury these things, and we bury them deep, and we don't allow ourselves to bring them out and take a risk and extend it out into the world. As if there could be some sort of scenario where you could lose something. That's what burying is based on. It's based on the idea that something could be lost. And nothing can ever be lost. In this lesson of A Course in Miracles, lesson 37, your holiness blesses the world. Your wholeness blesses the world. It says it's based on an idea, a concept that runs through the whole course. And it says, deep within you is everything that is perfect, ready to radiate through you and out into the world. You can never deprive yourself of this perfection, because the source of all joy goes with you wherever you go. We hear that in the Christian vernacular when it says, this is the day the Lord has made for us to rejoice and be glad. Our good is at hand. Like, is your good at hand? Do you recognize that your good is at hand, as near as your hand, as close as your breath? Because if you didn't recognize that, it would be so easy to give, because wherever you go, there you are, and wherever you are, there is God, and wherever there is God, there is plentiful, there is abundance, and you are an extension of this abundance. So do you walk the world like that? Knowing that as you give, you receive, and you receive, and you receive, and you're even more blessed than you could ever even imagine? I like to remind us that this lesson 37, if you're studying A Course in Miracles, there's 365 lessons. And this is 37. Most people don't get past 40. They pick up the book and they stumble through the first few, and then they're like, oh, forget it, this is a bunch of malarkey. So they get to around 40. So Jesus was like, I better put this up front. You know what I mean? Because I don't want you to get this. It's foundational. It's a basic lesson. It's saying your holiness blesses the world. It says if you accept your holiness, it begins to give us a first glimpse of what our function is here. So many people are running around the world going, what's my function? What's my function? Your holiness is your function. Your extension of your holiness is your function. And how you are called to deliver that is not as important as the recognition that you're extending God's love in all of its forms, in all of its flavors, whatever lights you up. God doesn't care how you do it, just that you do it and that you know what the source is. It says we're called to see the world through our own holiness. The first step is to accept our own holiness. And when you accept your own holiness, you and the world are blessed. Because in this acceptance of your holiness, no one loses, nothing is sacrificed, and nothing is taken away from anyone. Everyone gains through your holy vision. Everyone gains through your holy vision. I think that's a magnificent thing to be reminded of. In A Course, it breaks it down in an even shorter little sentence when it says, to have all, if you want to have all, does anybody know how you have all?
Give all to all.
Give all to all. We never would have come up with that on our own, right? Because that doesn't make any sense mathematically in the world. Like, what do you mean give all to all? Like, we're left with nothing. So, so it's not an easy thing to do, to have all, give all, to all. But if you do decide to do it, though it's not easy, it's not an easy thing, it will make your life more easy. Because you will activate within yourself a domain of abundance that is yours and is your inheritance. So as you activate that domain of inheritance, every time you give from that place, you reinstate for yourself this abundant nature that is your source. So that's how you embody these principles as opposed to just memorize them and know them. We want to walk the world knowing that. And when we walk the world knowing that, we walk the world with a smile of conqueror. I mean, it's such a beautiful and peaceful way to go. So in this section it says, this section signifies the end of sacrifice because it offers his full due. And he's entitled to everything because he's the Son of God. So it's the end of sacrifice. The reason I'm not going to extend this to him because I believe in scarcity. And I believe that I need to sacrifice something, that if I give something to you, I will lose something. And so this principle activates and eradicates the idea of scarcity and sacrifice. God is not invested in has no investment in scarcity. That's always of the ego. The song that there's not enough, that you're not enough, that there's not enough. God's never written that song. And so there's no scarcity. And sacrifice, if there's no scarcity, then I don't have to worry about sacrifice because there's more where that came from. Every time I give, I activate the law of generosity and there's just more. There's just more and more and more and more. But again, we live in a society that doesn't tell us this, so we have to reverse the thinking of the separate mind. So what does it mean that when they talk about nothing and everything? In the beginning of the Course it says, nothing real is threatened and nothing unreal exists. So if God takes nothing, you can look at that statement in a couple different ways. You could say God takes nothing, but literally God's going to take from you your freaking nothingness. All the things that you think you need, all of the forms, like God can take that from you and you can surrender that to God because it's nothing. The ideas, the identifiers, the stories, the scenarios, the shames, the secrets, all of the ways that I've pressed myself into these 5 limited senses, it's nothing. That, this body, this life, it's nothing. Beyond this is the underlying love song of God. That's the everything. So we want to surrender the nothing. And, sometimes that thought can sound kind of morbid to us, like, that's my everything. It's morbid because we think that's my everything. But what we get to do is we get to dance amongst the form. Whatever form shows up, we get to delight in it and dance with it and give it our full attention, but not seeking to get anything from it. The world will offer you nothing. And why would you want anything from the world when you already have everything? Do you get that? So it says, but you can offer your brother everything. And what does it mean when we offer everything? Does that mean we're going to give our brother like the keys to the house and the car and all? Does it mean we're going to take everything? Well, yes and no. Are we going to give our brother everything? Yes, we are going to give our brother everything. What is everything? If nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists, then the everything that's left is only love. So can we bring our brother our full love? And what does that look like when we come fully in love with our brother? That means that we show up and give him our full attention. That we're present with our brother and give our undivided time. It says, this is how you do it. Seeing all things as holy, seeing them as they are, and from a place of complete acceptance. So that's one way that you do it. So no matter what walks through the door, we say, this just is, and I'll love it. We've heard about Byron Katie. This is exactly what she teaches. Just love what is. Don't make meaning of it. Don't fear it. Don't try and juice it for something. Just be with it. You're already holy. You don't need to get anything from anyone. You're here to give. But instead, we don't come like that. At least I don't always come like that. I come with my unacceptance of situations, and I come with my fears and my resistances and my defenses. And my own agendas and my timeline. Like, God, come on, snap to. Like, this isn't what I ordered. What is this? So that's my addiction to getting, and that's where I don't trust God. Course in Miracles is very similar thread through it, which is about acceptance. And we have that acceptance that shows up in 12-step as well. In the Course in Miracles, there's this beautiful piece that's in the workbook, and it says, Actually, it's from the workbook lesson, and it's from 135, and it says, what could you not accept? We know this one. What could you not accept? If you but knew that everything that happened, every event, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one, capital O, who knows, whose only purpose is your good. Perhaps you've misunderstood his plan, for he would never offer you pain, but your defenses did not let you see his loving blessing shining in every step you ever took. It seems hard to accept that, because we're like, God, you plan this divorce? Like you plan this addiction? Like you plan this, you plan this, you plan this? And so it seems like when those things enter my door, I'm going to say this cannot be the plan of God. I'm going to deny it. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to judge it. I'm going to crucify it. And yet, every single time when I finally surrendered and invited that in, I was blessed by it. Blessed by it beyond any book I ever read or any thought I ever had. Blessed because it took me to a place I wasn't willing to go, literally going on the hero's journey, where from that gentle tenderizing of the soul, I received elixirs that I could bring back to the world. And during the time that I was on the other side of the door and holding it off, I was in the dark begging for a light at the end of the tunnel. And when I finally invited it in, it illuminated my entire life to the point where I was able to become the light at the end of the tunnel. And you have also been through this type of transformation as well. And now from this place of transformation, wouldn't you whisper to your younger self, like, open the door, open the door, let it in. Like, let it in. It's going to be for you. It looks like it's going to kill you and crush you and destroy you, but nothing real can be threatened. So that which is taken was never to serve you to begin with. It goes on to say that your holiness blesses everything, not just by full acceptance, but it says, this is, I think, very key. It says, it asks for nothing. For those who see themselves as holy, make no demands. Do you approach your, situations making no demands? Like, I don't. I was like, we're going to have a birthday party, and I'm going to have cake, and we're going to have a town show, and I was laying out all kinds of scenarios and demands, until finally I was like, I see my own demands. Like, what would happen if I just let it go? What do I love most in the world? Songs and stories. Is that going to be at your celebration? Fuck yeah. So why don't you stop trying to press yourself into a cookie cutter, recipe of what's supposed to be here? There's not supposed to be. You don't even like cake. I'm sorry if you do and you came here for cake today, but we're going to have a slice of song, a slice of story, and it's going to feed us a place in our soul. And I get to have a spiritual maturity and let go of all those things that I thought I was chasing or had to be in order for me to be happy. And maybe you relate to that. This is how we remove the illusion of need. And this is where we come to know that God is at hand and that our God is always present and always delivering our highest good. So how do you give this to your brother? It says in this section, so how do you bring this to your brother? This is also really important. It says not by preaching. It says not by telling anything. It says, and this is going to be a hard one for some of us who like to talk. It says, by your quiet recognition that in your holiness are all things blessed along with you. All right? By merely, you mean, God, you mean I need to do nothing but just show up and be present with my brother? Yeah. But God, I want to do. And it's like, but you let me do through you. And all you need to do is to just show up without need, without want. I think that want is one of those real, unfortunate words that we are addicted to, are wanting. And it prevents us from being present, and it prevents us from being holy. You can't have holiness and wanting. And that's why it's imperative that we move from the kingdom of consciousness of manifestation to channeling. And that's what that looks like, from moving from manifestation, saying, I want this and I will have it, to thy will be done, let it take the form it needs to take. So how do we come with that open heart and those open hands and that generous spirit? When there's a knock at the door and there's this invitation that's been waiting for you, and it's a thing that you've been holding off, and this is where you're burying your talents. And God is saying, I need you to play your talents. Remember you made that promise to me that you would come here and be a light to the world and slay those dragons? And you're like, yeah, but this is the wrong dragon at the wrong door, man. You made a mistake. I'm not capable of slaying playing that dragon? And God's like, no. Like, first of all, A Course in Miracles says that all talents are given equally to all sons and daughters of God, which I think is really important. When I first read that, I was like, do you mean I could sing like Barbara Streisand? Because you said all talents. But it means like the love of God is equally available to all of us to do all that needs to be done in the moment, in our particular place. And so there's no place in God where anyone needs to say, I don't got this. When you know that God is the source behind you, that you have the equal measure of all that can be done ever, that lives for you. And it goes before you, and it goes behind you, and it stands inside you. This is what happens instead when we say no and when we hide our talents. We say it doesn't look like what I thought it should look like, and it comes in these weird disguises like my son has depression, or my husband's leaving me, or my neighbor is always getting triumphs and treasures, and I'm stuck here with like crabgrass and hangovers. Like, why? What? Like, God, don't you love me? Don't you know? Don't you know me? And that right there, it's a perception problem. You know what I mean? Because we don't see what happens inside of our neighbors, and we don't see the gifts of the divorce, and we don't see the compassion that lives within the depression of our sons. Like, we don't see that, so we stop at the face of it, and we say, no, wrong door, nobody's home, go away. And it comes in ways that trespasses against our children. When something trespasses against our children, we take up even more of a witch hunt and say, no, not only am I not going to love here, but I'm going to hate here, and that's what I'm here to do. And God's like, ugh, that's not really the script. The script of God, it inspires us to lean into a bolder version of ourselves. It's not the muscle that's going to be found here in the world. It's this impeccable muscle. And we've seen other people walk the world like that. Jesus is an example, but not an exception. You know, there's so many people. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King are examples, but not exceptions. You think that God is like measuring out possibilities and potentials in each of us? That's just not the truth. So it comes in the door, and we scream from the back room like, "Go away! Nothing. No one's here, and I'll only have judgment to offer you." And that's what it looks like when I get stingy with love. That's what it looks like. And the thing that I've come to find is that this thing that knocks on the door that keeps me in my stingy mode. It's like when we're driving, we see things in the rearview mirror appear to be bigger or closer. It's just like that. It's like this thing seems huge. It seems insurmountable. It seems like I'm never going to get over this. It seems like this thing is going to block my doorway to greater good, and if I open the door, I'm screwed. But what happens is as soon as I open the door, it doesn't enter first. Do you know what enters first? Light. Light enters first. And light is nurturing. And light is healing. And light illuminates. Now what light illuminates, it doesn't just illuminate the problem, the illusion of the problem, it illuminates your potential. And in the light, when we start to shed light on things, especially our potential, that potential begins to grow. And the illumination that happens with the problem is that in the light of truth, the problem begins to melt. That's what happens when we bring illusion to light. The illusion begins to melt. And we begin to recognize that that thing we thought would kill us is so small. It literally becomes small potatoes that we can just step over with grace. That's possibility. And we spend a lot of energy kicking and screaming about not stepping over that little hurdle. And so we get to do that together. We get to acknowledge, I know this is painful for you. I know you want to hold on to this crucifixion. I know that you want to continue to judge and brand yourself with this broken story. But I'm going to stay here with you and hold the high watch. And together we're going to just marinate in this light. And in the light, in the same way that we don't need to do anything, we don't have to do anything in order to have our healing. We just have to stay in the light and breathe in the light. Spring is a great time to do that. It illuminates all the problems. Like if you've been, hibernating this winter and maybe not moving as much as we're supposed to, when you look in the mirror and you take a few layers off and you're like, what happened? And it's like winter happened. That's what happens in the dark when you shove things under the carpet and you push things to the back room. You know what I mean? Then you open the door and you take off some layers and you're like, oh, okay. So we get to deal with the truth. We get to deal with the truth though. And we're given everything that we need to deal with the truth. So illumination, when illumination comes into the room, it not only illuminates, but then it gives us a slight invitation to eliminate. And we're here to let go. And we're here to let go, and we're here to let go, and we're here to let go, and we're here to let go. And forgiveness is the master form of letting go. And we're here to let it go because we don't want to get hung up and strung out on these little illusions of our incapability. Today I will sacrifice fear. That's what we're being asked for to do today. I will sacrifice fear so I can get to the door, so I can open it up. It says here's the only sacrifice you ask of your beloved Son. You ask him to give up suffering, all senses of loss and sadness, all anxiety and doubt, and freely let your love come streaming into his awareness, healing him of pain and giving him your own eternal joy. Such is the sacrifice you ask of me, and one I gladly make. The only cost of restoring your memory to me for the salvation of the world is to give up fear. And so we're asked to be a bit fearless around our forgiveness, around our capability. It goes on to say, and as we pay the debt we owe to truth, a debt which merely is the letting go of self-deceptions and of images we worship falsely, truth returns us to our holiness and to our joy. And we are deceived no longer. Joy has now returned to our awareness, and we are at peace again, and fear has gone, and only love remains. And then what? And then what happens after that? And then we gladly give all that we are to all that God would have us be. It flows from us in an unconditional and easy and delightful way. Then what? We become a channel. And when we get to the last hour, we get to hear an affirmation in our soul that reverberates and repeats and reverberates and repeats again and again and again. And the words are always the same. And they simply say, well done, good and faithful servant. That's the word.